Hello there! Today I have a series of book reviews for you. I've done a lot of reading this year, but I have not done a ton of book reviews. Once in a while, maybe. But looking back at the books I've read this year, I have absolutely been in like the contemporary, specifically queer literature mindset. I love YA queer books. I'm in a queer lit class in college right now, and it's incredible. I cannot wait to see like what's happening now in YA be incorporated in classes like that in like 10 years. Because there's so much happening, and there's so much that has happened that so many of us don't really know about. So for this video, I'm gonna do 5 short spoiler-free reviews on 5 queer books that I've read this year. So this is not like my top 5 of all time. This is not like the most diverse list. I wish it was more, but these are 5 books that I've read recently that have come out in the last 5, 7, maybe a little more years. But most of them are very new, like this year. I recommend all of them, and like I said, there won't be any spoilers in this video. So without further ado, let's do this. The first one I want to talk to you about is We Are Okay by Nina LaCour. This came out earlier this year, and that's when I read it. It was in a Valentine's Day box from Penguin. The only other time I've read Nina LaCour is You Know Me Well with David Levithan. I loved her then, and I loved her here. This is a super short book, takes place over winter break, where our main character, Marin, is in her dorm alone, and her best friend comes to visit her, and we learn about everything that happened in the last year of her life. So it's very understated from a queer perspective, but it's very much there. Nina LaCour's writing style is gorgeous, but it's much more about the emotions and the internal thoughts of the character. And even though it's a super short book, it takes a lot to keep someone interested for like 200 pages of that. She's really brilliant at just bringing out those small moments. You could really feel the nuances of this situation with Marin. I took my time reading this book, but you could read it in like a day. So it's really just how you want to experience it. I'm a super slow reader, but I'm sure for most people this is a really quick read. The next book I want to talk about is A Very, Very Bad Thing by Jeffrey Self. I read this one over the summer as an ARC, and it is now here in hardcover form. This book was published by Push, which is an imprint of Scholastic that is largely queer voices and debut authors. So Jeffrey Self's first novel was Drag Teen, and this is the second one that just came out on Halloween. This book follows Marley, who's a gay high school student. Suddenly, there's a new kid in town, Christopher, but he happens to be the son of a very conservative, very popular pastor and his wife. However, Christopher is not like them at all, and he is gay. Marley and him really hit it off, but as expected, a very, very bad thing happens. A lot of stuff goes down, and this book is told in dual points of time, before and after. We don't know what happens for a long time. I flew through this book. Jeffrey Self's writing style is very funny, but also very honest, and I connected very much to Marley's character. You know, there are a lot of really sad situations in this book, but also lots of really nice, honest, you know, like good moments that also exist. And so it's nice to have stories that aren't totally about the bad stuff. You know, it's not the awful, looming coming out story. This is another really quick read. I highly recommend picking it up. It's a really great gay YA novel. It's something that I saw myself in very much and really appreciated that. Yeah, this book hit me really hard, so definitely recommend A Very, Very Bad Thing by Jeffrey Self. And next, I also read this one over the summer. It is Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe by Benjamin Alire Sáenz. And this one I actually listened to because the audiobook was narrated by who? Lin-Manuel Miranda, pre-Hamilton. And it drove me crazy that Alexander Hamilton was referenced in this book like 2 or 3 times. I'm not kidding. And Lin had no idea. He probably actually did. When is this from? 2012. He knew. So this book is very much about a friendship between 2 boys, and we watch a lot of confusion, a lot of heartbreak, a lot of stuff with their families go on. Aristotle and Dante have a lot in common, and there's a lot that's different about them. I don't even know how to summarize this book. The back is like one of those summaries that's not even a summary. That's okay, because the writing is gorgeous. It's narrated by Ari. So as we go on, we see him develop as a person. It's a very important time in his life, and this book covers sort of a large span of time. So he matures a lot and is growing up, and his voice throughout the book really stays true to that idea. So by the end, it's fascinating to see where he is and how he early on experiences homophobia from the perspective of an outsider within his school community, within his family, dealing with his brother and his father, and then Dante's family. And if you haven't read this, I'm just like rambling. But the point is, there's so much to this book. It has won so many awards. I do recommend listening to the audiobook. It's a very nice story to hear. It feels very long to me because I read this over a long period of time, but I would definitely say it deserves to be devoured. And if you haven't read it yet, you probably hear about it a lot, so I would definitely recommend picking it up as soon as possible. There's so much to discuss about it, and I don't even feel like I could do it justice in a video like this. But yeah, I'm really happy I read this. It gave me a totally new perspective with their youth and their culture. It's happy, it's frustrating to read. I loved it a lot. And the next book I want to talk about I read very recently. It is Simon versus the Homo Sapiens Agenda by Becky Albertalli. As you probably know, the movie adaptation of this novel is coming out next year, really soon, and it's been retitled To Love Simon, and this is the poster, and it's adorable. And I love it so much. I have high hopes for like how this movie is going to go. I'm sure it's going to be amazing. I listened to the first half of this on audiobook. Second half I tore through it and just read. If you don't know, I'm an Audible affiliate, so if you're interested, you can follow my link. It's in the description and you'll get your first audiobook for free. I use Audible regularly and I love it, so I actually recommend it. And you'll get a free book and it'll really help me out. Highly recommend. This book made me so happy to read because I was reading it during like a stressful school time, and it sort of like took me back to high school. It follows Simon, who lives in the suburbs of Atlanta. He's in theater with his friends. He has a pretty good life and he's struggling with how to come out, and also has sort of an online boyfriend-ish person that he talks to, and they have screen names with each other. So right at the beginning, someone finds out about this and blackmails Simon into helping them get with their heterosexual crush. I thought I had this book figured out like at the first chapter, and I was like, oh great, like now I have to read it, but I didn't. Becky Albertalli was a genius writer. There were just like so many great moments that had me smiling. It's a really important story. There's a transparency in Simon's voice and just a new awareness that I think is very like now. Like if this book were written 5 years ago by someone, so many things that Simon is aware of would not have been there, and I think that is why like this story and this movie are going to be great. It feels very true to where he lives, to who Simon is, who his friends are. It's a story that I tore through and I feel like I want to revisit because there was just so much to it, but it was also just very simple and really not trying to be anything else. You know, Becky Albertalli obviously has a lot of experience dealing with all different kinds of people, so it felt very natural to read this from her voice. I felt that I trusted her as, you know, the narrator through Simon's eyes. And so it was really nice to feel so like deeply connected to this book, and I think a lot of people do. And she has another book called The Upside of Unrequited, which I have a friend who told me that, you know, she liked it even better than Simon because she saw herself in this one so much. So like that'll probably be the opposite for me, but I'm probably still going to love this one and I can't wait to read it. And the final book I want to discuss is one that I just read, and it is Anything Could Happen by Will Walton. This book came out in 2015, I believe. Did not know till I read it that Anything Could Happen is an Ellie Goulding reference. That song. So this is another very short book. I'm noticing a theme. Two of them were not that short, but this one truly felt very short in a good way. So this is sort of a tale that I think a lot of people would be nervous to tell. It's a closeted gay teen who has a crush on his straight best friend who has two gay dads. So it is both a coming out story and one of unrequited love. This was very fun to read because there is a mystery and sort of a level of adolescent like embarrassment and shame that is like captivating to see, because there's so much conflict going on with Tretch internally that you don't know what he's gonna say ever, or like what he's gonna do, if he's ever gonna like make a big move, if he's gonna tell someone something or come out. And there's also a lot going on with his family at the time. So I really enjoyed reading this and I flew through it. My friend Evan Walsh took this photo on the cover and it's gorgeous. This is a very simple and very fun queer story. It's a different perspective. It's something that like is, you know, it's touched upon a lot, but there are a lot of ways this story could go. So, you know, it's fascinating to read, and it's also, you know, like an important perspective to keep in mind. Those are my 5 book reviews. That is a large chunk of what I've been reading this year. If you have any recommendations for queer books that you've been reading, I would love to read some with like trans representation or ace representation, or if there's bisexual characters. I truly like don't encounter that a lot, and I need to do better at looking for those. I just bought If I Was Your Girl by Meredith Russo, and it's on my shelf now. And I've also in my class been reading some Audre Lorde, Alison Bechdel, lots of queer poetry, which I've been loving. So that's all I have for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Leave me a comment with your recommendations, or if you've read these books, what you thought. All of these are like a thumbs up for me in varying degrees, but mostly like thumbs up. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Make sure you give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel below. All the love, have a great day, and goodbye.